Hi, I'm David DeWitt. These are my lovely parents and my dog. How many of you took a test such as a proficiency test or a graduation test? And how many of you thought these tests were effective in measuring your academic success? Well, my experience with standardized testing was the OGT and the proficiency tests. The OGT was in high school and the proficiency tests were in middle school. And I had severe anxiety and stress for the OGT because if I didn't pass the OGT, I didn't graduate high school. Now, standardized testing is holding back the progress for American school districts by promoting the idea of focusing curriculum on the tests, narrowing the knowledge of students, and not properly laying the foundation for students to build on. The topic of standardized testing means a lot to me because as a future educator, some of my evaluation will be based on what my students score on these tests. And in these next few minutes, I hope to persuade you that standardized testing is hurting our schools and limiting students' creative minds by looking at the following things. First, we'll look at standardized tests and how they're not the most effective way to make our children smarter. We'll also look at teaching to think creatively, to use it's a more effective way of teaching, and ideas on how to take action against standardized tests. So let's start by exploring what standardized tests are and how they impact our children in schools. Standardized testing is not effective and can have serious negative impacts on children in schools. Standardized testing is defined as any test that is administered, scored, and interpreted in a standard, predetermined manner. Some standardized tests are high-stakes tests. This means that due to pressure of passing tests, students develop high test anxiety. For example, the Sacramento Bee reported that test jitters can get so high that in the Stanford 9 exam, it comes with instructions on what to do if a student vomits from anxiety. Now, students aren't the only ones affected by this. School districts are also affected. For example, that school districts need to have good success ratings in the tests, or they risk being punished or losing state and federal funding. Teachers are also evaluated on how their students perform on the tests. Now, most standardized tests are multiple choice. Multiple choice tests limits the answers to a mere right or wrong format, and it's not applicable in the real world. Now, multiple choice tests also promotes rote learning. Rote learning does not include a deep understanding of the topic, and it's pretty much regurgitating definitions. Well, now that we have explored the impacts that standardized tests have had on our schools and children, let's look into the solution to the problem. The solution to the problems we are faced with standardized testing is not to eliminate standardized testing altogether, but to start a new system of tests and start from scratch. We need to emphasize on creative thinking. Creative thinking shows more meaningful learning in the subject a student is learning. It creates open-minded test questions and has the students write answers in essay and short answer form. It also allows students to analyze and apply their knowledge instead of simply choosing A because it's a regurgitation of the definitions given to them. We also need to reduce the stakes of taking the tests. We can't punish schools with low test scores and by reducing their funding. In fact, we should increase funding for schools with low test scores because school districts in poor areas tend to have to do worse on standardized tests. And increasing funding to schools can provide a better environment for students to learn and increase motivation. We also can't put too much pressure on the students. Putting huge pressure on students to pass these tests can negatively affect their self-efficacy and even lead to self-handicapping. These solutions are proven to be an effective way of increasing the quality of education a student receives. For example, Finland. Finland is one of the top-ranking countries in terms of quality of education students receive. Students are assessed using questions that require them to write extensively, analyze data, and apply their knowledge. Students are also assessed using project-based learning, like science investigations, research projects, and discovery-based learning. Now, if you care about your children's education, we need to push for reform on standardized testing. We need to contact our governor and senators by calling or writing. We also need to write to our local boards of education and ask for further information on the effectiveness of the tests they're administering. And remember, in order to make the world a better place, we need educative, creative, and competent minds. Thank you.